So you can see here that magnesium deficiency, according to the education purported in universities, is not going to be really a problem for people. However, I just want to explain how this misguided kind of thinking and education and reasoning can lead people down the path to improperly evaluate the effectiveness and efficacy of certain nutrients. In the context of magnesium, we know that most people absolute minimum need about 400 milligrams a day, okay? However, and most people are actually getting much less. So they did a survey in America, then we found that 200 to 300 milligrams of people, 200 milligrams of people, Jesus Christ. When we look at the data from a large US national survey, which we can kind of extrapolate to the Western world and Australia as well, we see that the average person really only gets around 200 to 300 milligrams of magnesium per day, which is basically a third of what you need from the 400 milligrams at very base minimum for daily magnesium intake, and it's probably going to be far more for people who are more active, who sweat a lot, who maybe have diabetes, who consume alcohol frequently, or who also have a higher processed, refined, non-nutrient dense diet. All of these things are going to either alcohol, which will double the excretion rate of magnesium, or diabetes, which will both type 1 and type 2, which will increase the rate of magnesium excretion. And by just having a higher processed, refined diet, you're much less likely to get nutrient-dense foods. You're more likely to consume more processed, refined carbohydrates, which have tendency, not that they're bad in of themselves, but they have a tendency to have more things like being more phytate rich, and which displace and minimize the bioavailability and, or rather the absorption for magnesium, because phytates decrease. There are like phytates bind up minerals like magnesium, and so that can be a problem in the context of a high refined carbohydrate or a high phytate diet. And then you can go further on, people with gastrointestinal problems like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, hyperchlorhydria, low stomach acid, excessive sweating from a lot of, high sweat rate, high exercise. There are all these different various factors that justify a higher need for magnesium, yet universities are going to purport that, no, we don't really see deficiencies in magnesium for humans. People are going to then take this information, students then become professionals, they then take this information and they use it in the real world, and then populations of people and groups of people don't get educated, but number two, now their health suffers in a way that it didn't have to, because the nuance of the topic wasn't covered, and that technically deficiency may not be easy for people to attain. People like renal disease or malabsorption syndromes or alcoholics may actually be deficient. However, inadequacy can still see a whole host of symptoms, side effects, deficiencies, nervous system, muscular problems, cardiac arrhythmias on the more stronger kind of side effect side, but even just basic you're gonna have energy metabolism problems. Your ability to basically every action potential, every ATP molecule requires magnesium for its conjugation, for its structure. Therefore, if there is a deficiency of some sort, we can theorize that basically every energy reaction in the body will have to work. Basically, there are pathways that are now going to have to either work a little bit harder to compensate from this, or will just be functioning at a little bit of a lower capacity. And that could then, the outcome of that could be in your exercise performance or your energy levels or your mood, for example. So this idea that we don't see deficiency is not really the right way to phrase it. Number two, most people are not consuming enough magnesium for the whole host of reasons that I just mentioned, with diabetes and alcohol consumption being really high in Australia and really around Western worlds, but particularly Australia with alcohol consumption, and the changing of diet ratios between more processed, refined foods, which are higher in phytates, displacing the absorption for magnesium, and a higher active, higher stressful lifestyle, justifying the need for more magnesium. It brings it to the conversation that we now need, the priority is now, okay, we need to take in more high quality magnesium sources in order to compensate for many of the a litany of different reasons that people may be low in magnesium and may be functioning at well below a suboptimal level.